There are 4 different adult attachment styles: secure, anxious, fearful, and the one we'll be discussing today, avoidant. Based on the research from the book Attached by Amir Levine, MD, and Rachel Heller, MA, which details the differences between the 4 attachment styles, we've created today's video: 11 signs you're dating someone with an avoidant attachment style. Our favorite tell that someone has an avoidant attachment style is number 9, but let us know yours in the comments below. Alright, let's get started. Number 11. They use strategies to keep you emotionally or physically distant. Did you know that there's research that suggests that the 4 attachment styles we can develop have evolved over history as a way to increase the survival chance of humans? Evolutionary theorists believe that the secure attachment style predicted the best outcomes of survival, based on their ability to rely on and communicate with their group members. Sadly, only about 50% of the population were born into and raised in the optimal conditions to develop a secure attachment style. The 25% of the population who fostered an avoidant attachment style were likely born into a hostile or neglectful environment. Their parents may have discouraged an open display of emotions like sadness through crying or even joy if they're laughing too loud. Perhaps when they were in greater need physically, like if they were sick or scared, the parents may have acted even more harshly or distant. In order to survive, people raised with these conditions need to adapt and develop strategies that become habitual in order to become self-sufficient. Sadly, while these strategies may have ensured survival in their youth, they don't translate to happiness or relationship satisfaction in adulthood. If you're dating someone with an avoidant attachment style, you might notice they behave in deliberate manners to keep you at a safe distance emotionally and physically. Perhaps you've been dating for years and they still insist on having separate houses. Or maybe they always insist on going to bed at different times, or need to use separate blankets. When you're walking together, instead of holding your hand, they'll walk a brisk 2 steps ahead or sit on a different couch while watching a movie. When you try to engage them in an emotional discussion, they'll change the subject or disengage completely. If you ask them when you'll hear from them again, they'll never give a clear answer, potentially leaving you insecure and always running on their schedule. Number 10. They send you so many mixed signals that you can't keep track. If you're dating someone with an avoidant attachment style, you might find yourself experiencing emotional whiplash from trying to keep up with their mixed signals. One day they're vulnerable, confiding in you about their emotions, nuzzling your hair, and whispering sweet words into your ear. Then for the rest of the week, they're acting aloof, distant, and ignoring your calls. Every time you feel like you're making progress in the relationship, they take 3 steps backward. They might even drop hints of a future, hinting that you'll move in. Then the next week, they'll begin talking about their plans of spending time traveling solo overseas. You crave the vulnerable intimacy you know they're capable of, but it comes so sparingly that you feel exhausted trying to decipher his mixed signals and attempting to find a behavior that triggers their tender side. Number 9. They value their independence more than anything else. If you're dating someone with an avoidant attachment style, they will likely value their independence highly and look down upon needy behavior. It might feel like regardless of your needs, wants, or requests, they're always busy. They'll often say things such as, "My work takes up most of my life, I don't have time for a serious relationship." Or, if they do enter a committed relationship, they might make it known from the beginning that they need a lot of space. They might warn you that they only date people who are self-sufficient and won't be available for emotional support. Or maybe they'll make comments about how they can't imagine being tied down by marriage, leaving you confused on whether you're working toward a future together. It might feel like they're always keeping their eyes open for a different, better match for them than you, leaving you insecure and jealous. Their independence and freedom to do as they please might be the most important thing to them, but it can cause you anxiety if you desire more closeness and dependence. If this sounds like your partner, they might have an avoidant attachment style. Number 8. Devaluing you seems like second nature. Devaluing you or prior partners of theirs is a sign that your partner might have an avoidant attachment style. They might be genuinely joking or say they're joking when they're not, but the comments or behaviors still make you feel insecure or even worthless. Devaluing can look very different each time, and sometimes it's very subtle. Examples of an avoidant person devaluing their partner would be joking about how bad you are at singing in the shower, or even that you're getting chubby. Or maybe they'll muse openly about how attracted they were to an ex until they dyed their hair blonde, just after you went blonde, leaving you wondering if you'll be dumped over a hairstyle. They could flirt with other people in front of you, making sure you know how desirable they are and how easy you could be replaced. Or maybe they'll even go as far as cheating on you when you thought things were finally going great. Why do they do this? Well, devaluing is one of their deactivating strategies in their toolkit to keep you at arm's length. A deactivating strategy is essentially any day-to-day behavior that deactivates intimacy in an attempt to suppress the biological mechanisms within them to form attachment. However, despite the fact that these tools are excellent at stifling intimacy, they aren't enough to stop attachment from forming. Instead, they only harm the satisfaction and happiness gained from their attachment. Number 7. They put firm boundaries inside the relationship without taking your wants or needs into consideration. When you're dating an avoidant person, you've probably noticed that they're very particular about the boundaries that they place. You might find yourself frustrated that they refuse to meet your family or introduce you to theirs after years of dating. Or maybe they have no desire to introduce you to their friends, stating, "You have your friends, I have my friends." When you express that it's important to you, they may brush it off or state that they aren't compromising. Or they'll instead tell you that it's too soon, but one day it'll happen, despite that day never coming. If you're living together, maybe they like to buy their own groceries or have a room for themselves to relax in that you're not allowed to enter. If you're not living together, they might only spend time at your house, never letting you see his home. If you do go to their place, they might be very clear about you not leaving items at their house. Number 6. They hold an unrealistic and idealized view of romance and/or their first love. You would think that someone who takes such strides to maintain an emotional distance wouldn't be much of an idealist, but the truth is, they tend to pine for a perfect person or the one who will satisfy all their desires and bring them only joy. But the truth is, this is just another strategy to evade intimacy, as the perfect partner doesn't exist. Instead, they might decide that someone they're genuinely compatible with and feel attached to isn't good for them for trivial reasons, such as the way they type over text or the way they chew their food. They'll self-sabotage a good relationship because they're comparing them to a perfect person they've imagined in their minds. Alternatively, they may also long for their first love, or the phantom ex. A consequence of an avoidant devaluing their partner for so long is that once the relationship has ended and the avoidant no longer feels their independence threatened or forced to suppress their intimacy, they're able to finally remember all the good about the ex that they took for granted. For that reason, they'll often put them on a pedestal, ignoring all the things about them that they disliked and led to the breakup, and view them as the golden standard no one else can live up to. If you have a partner who seems to be hung up on their ex even years later, or seems to have an idealized version of the one, they might have an avoidance attachment style. Also, if you're enjoying this video, then make sure to subscribe and leave a comment saying, "I subscribed," and we will personally reply to your comment. Number 5. They also tend to have rigid views of relationships or rules that they won't compromise on. Adding on to the last sign, they'll often have very rigid rules for relationships that can prevent them from being satisfied in a relationship. For example, they might only date thin blondes under 30, thus missing out on hundreds of potential partners solely because they're brunette and 31. Alternatively, they might tell you that they'll never get married because they don't believe in it, ignoring any needs or desires for your future that you might have. Or they'll make generalizations that make you insecure about your future, such as, everything changes once you move in together, that's when everything starts to fall apart, rather than looking forward to future milestones in the relationship. If you notice your partner has a rigid, uncompromising view or rules on relationships, they could have an avoidant attachment style. Number 4. During arguments, they'll either explode or disengage completely. Heated arguments or emotional discussions usually go one of two ways if you're dating an avoidant partner. They'll either blow up or disengage. If they blow up, often their anger will prevent any real communication from taking place. Or, if they disengage saying they don't want to talk about it, they end the discussion entirely. It drives you insane because you don't want to start a big fight. You just want them to listen and talk about the issue to meet a compromise. Why is this so hard for them? One explanation for this was found by Dr. Jeffrey Simpson, a psychologist at the University of Minnesota, who found that those with avoidant attachment styles struggle the most with feeling empathy and reading their partner's emotions, facial cues, mental states, and predicting their reactions toward their behavior. Often, they'll view any conflict as a threat or that their partners are angry, thus becoming defensive and act in a manner that doesn't promote any healthy communication or relationship development. Number 3. They're often very mistrustful. Growing up in a hostile or neglectful environment where you're unable to even trust your parents, the only people in the world who are responsible for providing unconditional positive regard and love, it's unsurprising that they'd grow up to be mistrustful of people. If your partner has an avoidant attachment style, you might feel like they never fully trust you despite you never being untrustworthy. They might drop hints that you're only interested in them for their financial success, that you'll try to trap them in a marriage, or perhaps even that you'll be unfaithful the second someone better than them comes around. Regardless, this mistrust can be hurtful, especially when you've been nothing but authentic and genuine in your interest. However, it's important to understand that being mistrustful is a strategy they become accustomed to since their childhood. Try not to take it too personally because you're likely not the only one they're mistrustful of. However, if you begin to feel disrespected by this behavior, remember that you don't have to tolerate it. Number 2. They will not make their intentions with you clear. Are you left always wondering what your partner's intentions are with you, or how they even feel about you? You'd think that if you're dating someone, you'd know that they care about you, but avoidants make it very difficult to feel secure within a relationship. Maybe you've been dating for over a year and they still won't say, "I love you." Or perhaps when you think you're moving toward an engagement, they announce that they'll be taking a vacation abroad for a year without inviting you. Whenever you ask for any insight into how they feel toward you or their goals for the relationship, they'll change the subject or say they'll discuss it another time. If you're dating an avoidant, it might feel like any conversation that could signal any commitment will be off the table. Number 1. Communicating with them can feel impossible. Based on all these signs, it makes sense that communicating with people who have the avoidant attachment style can feel like you're digging for information like it's buried treasure. You're desperate to get to know them more, about their past, their hopes, their fears, anything, but their minds are locked up tight. You might feel afraid to ask for your own needs to be met in the relationship, scared that it'll push you even further away. Or perhaps when you bring up behavior that hurt you, they'll simply apologize but not make any promises to change. It can make navigating the relationship feel like a landmine, trying to make sure not to mention any topics that are off limits to them that will trigger disengagement, leaving you feel nervous about expressing your own emotions. And if you like this video, then check out these related videos to see more. Are you dating someone who exhibits some of these avoidant signals? Have we missed any? If so, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences.